Welcome in, everyone, to the Football Addicts Anonymous podcast. Great to have Logan back for another show. We'll have good friend Danny Potter on shortly in about 15 minutes. I know we're almost 15 late. Had to finish all these crazy moves here, but it's going to be a long show, and I'm probably going to be doing it by myself for a lot of the end of it. Mark said he was going to be on soon. I don't know. Sometime. But let's get to it. Yeah, Chris is out, stomach bug thing going on with him. So, all right, starting off, couple NCAA news things. This Michigan pass rusher David Ojabo, he tore his Achilles at his pro day. Major blow to his draft stock. But I want to talk about what Louis Riddick was very angry about on Twitter, and I completely agree with what he was saying. The video of him getting hurt. I don't have the video up here, but the coaches that were running the drill just picked up the ball and went to reset the drill for the next person. No one went to him, asked him if he was okay until the medical personnel came out.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Just crazy that kind of thing happened.
Which took a while too. Like
Yeah.
he's sitting there on the ground, kind of like writhing in pain for a hot minute before anybody attends to him. So it's a pretty bad indictment on I don't know who runs those. I feel like it's maybe I don't know if it's NFL coaches or if it's Michigan staff.
Yeah, it'd be usually there'll be position coaches for some teams at each pro day, and they will ask the school to do certain drills, and they'll usually run them.
Right. But it's a bad look for those coaches, and it's a bad look for the scouts too. You can kind of just see them in the background, just not reacting.
Yeah.
That is the biggest takeaway, I think, from this, because I think it's going to sink his draft stock a little bit, but I still expect him to be like a first round talent.
Yeah, I do too. You know, I know I saw one thing, person comparing it to Cam Akers, who came back a lot earlier than people thought, and I believe that was 8 months, or no, it was small, shorter than that.
I think it was 6 months.
Yeah, because he entered it in July, came back for the playoffs.
Yep.
So, maybe if that's a possibility, could maybe get back by the start of the season. But if not, he probably won't miss too many games, even if it is the longer route, 8 or 9 months. But we'll have to wait and see on his progress. But yeah, that was the biggest thing that I had for that.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous that no one helped him or asked how he was. Other pro day news, it is a big week for quarterback prospects. Today was Pitt's pro day. Kenny Pickett worked out. I heard he was flawless, 56 scripted throws, some showing his arm strength and other specific throws that they wanted to see. He also got his hands remeasured, and it was an 1/8 inch bigger at his
Nice.
8 5/8. So, whatever. But yeah, that was today. Tomorrow is Liberty's pro day for Malik Willis. Wednesday is Ole Miss for Matt Corral. And then Thursday we have Desmond Ritter and Cincinnati. So watch out for updates from those pro days, see how the quarterbacks are doing. And also who is there is also a big thing to take out. What teams are there and who specifically from the teams are there.
Yep. The more resources you see devoted to these pro days, the more you can kind of read between the lines and gauge the interest. So,
yeah, I know Panthers GM Scott Fitterer was at Pitt today. Missed out on Deshaun Watson, which we'll get to. So I want him to go to the Steelers to stay in Pittsburgh. But if he goes to the Panthers, I'm fine with that too. As long as it's one of my teams. Not the Eagles. Not the Eagles. Jalen Hurts is our guy.
yep.
But Fitterer is a Pittsburgh native, former minority owner with the Steelers as well. So, or not Fitterer, David Tepper, the Panthers owner.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. NFL news. Just start general stuff before we get into the trades. Rams left tackle Andrew Whitworth retired. Everyone knew that was going to happen. They re-signed Joseph Noteboom last week, a couple weeks ago. So I don't know. It always comes up when people retire. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer necessarily. I don't know.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I've been hearing not only Hall of Fame buzz, but first ballot buzz around Whitworth. Now, I don't know if first ballot, if I'm necessarily buying into that, but man, he did really have a long career and a lot of sustained success. And at that position, that sometimes is maybe enough to kind of like move that needle, especially now that he has a ring, you know?
Yeah. I think, granted, I'm trying to think of who, because that's always the question, was he the best or top three at his position for a majority of his career? And I really am just blanking on who was at left tackle throughout his entire career. Jason Peters. I would put Jason Peters in over Andrew Whitworth, more than likely. That's not being Eagles biased, but I think Jason Peters was better than Whitworth. That's really the only other one that I can think of. I don't know. I can't think of any other tackles right now.
Well, it's hard because he's had such a long career.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see when 2027 comes around. There were two overtime rules proposals at the league meeting last week. The Eagles and Colts joined up together, and their proposal was to allow both teams to have an opportunity to possess the ball in overtime. That's all that one says. So what that means, I don't know. But then the Titans proposal was a little bit more specific. Said allow both teams an opportunity to possess the ball in overtime unless the team with the first possession scores a touchdown and gets the 2-point conversion.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting. And I know there's a lot of heated debate about which camp you fall into changing the OT rules. I am of the opinion that I think the game needs to kind of go to allowing each team to have a possession, because I know that a lot of the argument is, right, well, just play better defense, right? I mean, but that sentiment is still there if you give both teams a possession, right? So both teams will still have to play defense. So that's my opinion. I like the little flavor there of the 2-point play. I think, though, you want to take one step at a time. I don't think you want to be throwing too much new things. You just want to see how some of these changes play out. But we'll see. We'll see if they approve them.
Hello, Mark.
Hi guys, how's it going?
Good. We're just talking about the overtime proposals here at the league meetings. Eagles and Colts joining together to just generally put out that both teams should get a possession in overtime. And then Titans said both teams should get a possession only if the first team scores a touchdown and gets a 2-point conversion. So I kind of like that. I mean,
You know how I feel about this. I call it a communist sport that you can end in a tie. That's jokingly. You're gonna lose some of the buzz because everybody keeps talking about it when there is a tie. But I do actually I tend to lean towards what the Titans proposed.
yeah. What's up, Danny?
Hey, what's up?
We started like 15 minutes late, so
Oh, it's okay.
we'll get to Devontae shortly. But yeah, I like the Titans thing. Kind of like you were saying, Logan, like little by little get to where we kind of want to go. And I think adding that they have to get a 2-point to end the game and not get the other team a possession in overtime would be a nice little step.
I will throw this in there, and it's a long shot, but think about it, right? And definitely working in professional baseball now and seeing how it really, for the players, it's still competition in a sport, right? But the spectators in the stands really view some of these events as entertainment. Why not play the entire time? Just play the allotted time. Let's agree on a 10-minute overtime, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if it's still scored tied at the end, have the kickers have a kickoff. How far can you kick a field goal? Whoever kicks the longest field goals win. I'm telling you, non-football fans would tune into that portion of the game because they'd be like, "Oh my God, he just hit a 45. He hit a 50. He hit a 55." I'm telling you, there would be buzz around it.
Kind of like horse or something, maybe.
We'd have to pay the kickers a little bit more then.
Hey, that's what I mean. It's good for the sport. It's like a shootout, right? It's a kick out.
All right.
Not a bad idea.
The Eagles signed GM Howie Roseman to a 3-year extension through 2025 that runs concurrently with head coach Nick Sirianni's deal. Very happy. Howie Roseman's I'm Eagles fan, but he is one of the best general managers in the NFL. I think hands down. And he's also making history by signing that extension because he's the only GM to, I believe, ever survive 3 head coaches, 3 head coach firings. So he's on his 4th head coach. Andy Reid, Chip Kelly, Doug Peterson, and now Nick Sirianni. So happy that how he's going to stay in Philly. And then the Steelers added 3 former GMs to their interview list for their open general manager spots after the draft. Former Giants GM Jerry Reese, former Vikings GM Rick Spielman, and former Bills GM Doug Whaley. I like Rick Spielman the most out of those 3, but I don't know. Okay. Since Danny is here, we will work the Devontae trade first.
Take your time. I still have like 20 minutes or so. So if you want to talk about Deshaun Watson first, that's cool too.
Yeah, Deshaun might take a little bit. We'll go. All right. So went down St. Patty's Day. I was at a bar drinking green beer. while this was occurring. And not paying attention to my phone until my friend said, "Bro, did you see what happened to Devontae?" I was like, "No." But yeah, so the Raiders acquired Packers wide receiver Devontae Adams for the number 22 overall pick this year and the number 53 overall pick this year. First and second rounder, that's all it took to get Devontae Adams. I was surprised it only took that much. But as Logan and I were talking pre-show, the wide receiver trade market has not been the greatest when you look at the other two, Amari Cooper and Robert Woods that we've had. Raiders also signed Devontae to a 5-year, $141.25 million deal. That's $28.25 million per year, I believe. So, Danny, you had the floor.
Well, you know what? Yeah, like you said, I mean, the wide receiver market is not great, but I mean, we're getting the first and the second round this year too, and we can rework that to move up maybe, or I don't know. I mean, we still have some room to sign a veteran wide receiver, and then you can also draft some young wide receivers that fill in some spots, and then later on we can work them out where they'll be successful in our organization. So of course it's tough because Devontae and Aaron Rodgers had that chemistry where it was so unmatched. I mean, but it could be like Jordy Nelson all over again, where someone else is going to be able to step up like Devontae did for Jordy. And now, maybe Alan Lazard steps up somehow. I don't know if he's going to be a wide receiver one, but maybe he is. Maybe, he did have some flashes, the past year or so. So you never know. So yeah, it sucks. I mean, it hurt. And the thing that really hurt though is that, I mean, the Packers were offering the same amount. So, and the same exact contract. And he just said, no, I'm going to walk away and play with Derek Carr and the Vegas Raiders and possibly not make the playoffs, especially in that loaded AFC West. But, that was a stab in the back, I feel like. But other than that, I think the Packers are still in a great position as long as they make the right moves, the next couple months or so.
Yeah, loaded.
Couple months or so.
Yeah, loaded with the number 22 and number 28 in the first round now. There was also a spin for Devontae, though. It was his dream always to reunite with Derek Carr, Fresno State teammates, and run it up with the Raiders. And I believe he was a Raiders fan growing up as well.
Well, all I can tell you is that they're not going to win a Super Bowl. So whereas in Green Bay, they had the chance. The chance to at least get out of the NFC and make it to the Super Bowl. I feel like he just gave up on them, which is ridiculous. But whatever. I guess he wants to team up with his college best buddy and receive catch touchdowns from him. I don't get it. I mean, they had that chemistry in Green Bay, and he really loved Green Bay too. I mean, he said it in his farewell letter, which there were some lies in there, I feel like, but whatever. He's not going to win a ring, and so be it. Aaron Rodgers hopefully wins one more before he retires as a Packer, and every Packer fan would say, "Ha, look at this Devontae." So we'll see what happens, but I don't think he's going to get a ring in Vegas.
Logan,
if anything, he'll just gamble all his money away.
The wide receiver trade market was very weird. I mean, think about the Browns releasing Jarvis Landry, getting nothing. Julio Jones, you didn't even get a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick. So definitely was an interesting market. So getting that first round pick is huge. Let's hope that the Packers don't blunder it the way they did with their last pick in the 20th. And I think this is more gonna be measured by Aaron Rodgers' performance, because let's take a counterpart at the same position, Mr. Tom Brady. And anytime that people deflected or got injured, they would just throw another piece in there, right? And you would never heard about this receiver, and then that receiver became a really good receiver. So I think the Packers looked at Devontae Adams as expendable, and I know that you're a diehard Packer fan, and I actually secretly root for him too. I don't look at it as a stab in the back. I look at it as this has a lot to do with the management, because Devontae said, I want to stay here, and as long as Aaron Rodgers is here, I'm going to be here. Like, they're the ones that had to agree to this trade. It's not like he could agree to it. He's not the GM. He could say he wants out of Green Bay, but ultimately who presses that button is the GM and the people that are in the organization of the Packers. And we all know, and I would love to see Aaron Rodgers get another ring, but he's got to play better in the playoffs, regardless of whoever's it is on his offense.
Well, you know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe Devontae was, just an extendable, and someone else can step up, like I said earlier. And maybe Devontae was a distraction. I mean, look at the game versus San Francisco this past playoff.
I agree. I agree with that.
He was throwing in double coverage, like Allen Lazard was wide open, and now he doesn't have that star receiver, and he might not ever have that big of a star wide receiver ever again. So now he has the opportunity to throw to the open man and hopefully make a play.
And when they traded him, my first thought, honestly, and most people probably wouldn't agree with me, I think they might have got better because of what you just said. I think that somebody's going to step up. He's going to distribute the ball a little bit more, and it becomes less of we have to get Devontae the ball and more of, hey, man, we're all in this as a team, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. And, look at the run game too. I mean, you got probably one of the best tandems in the game with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. And now, hopefully we can use them a little bit more, focus on the run game a little bit more. And, then Aaron Rodgers can create plays from that. So hopefully it works out.
Yeah, I don't know. They looking at the depth chart on ESPN right now, it's pretty
I know
bare.
it's not good, right? It's not great. Not great. They need to go out. They need to draft it really well, and they also need to pick up potentially maybe a veteran receiver.
You mentioned Allen Lazard. They did put the second round restricted free agent tender on him. That's just under $4 million for that. So they're keeping him. And then it's Randall Cobb, Malik Taylor, Jawan Winfrey, Amari Rogers, Chris Blair, and Rico Gafford.
God, that's awesome.
I heard MVS was still signed, but he's not on the depth chart. I don't know.
I don't think they re-signed
If
him.
he was hurt.
No, MVS is a free agent.
Okay.
Yeah, he's still a free agent. They're still working that out. Hopefully they bring him back. But
and then other receiving position, tight end, Tunyon's coming back from the injury. And then you got the other tight ends still there, Josiah DeGuara and Mercedes Lewis. But yeah, they got to do something. And I feel like should do exactly what the Vikings did. They traded Stephon Diggs for a first-round pick, and they used that same pick to draft an amazing wide receiver in Justin Jefferson. But I agree with Mark. The ball's in Brian Gutekunst's park now. He's got to make the right move, and the first step in that is asking number 12 what he wants.
please do not draft another quarterback in the first round.
Logan, any final thoughts before we go back to Deshaun?
Yeah, took the weekend. We hit for the cycle in terms of the stages of grief. We're now on acceptance. And, I think what this is just, I think what it came down to is that I think there was just bad blood between the front office and Devontae Adams. Going back to last offseason, they'd been trying to work an extension, and just both sides did not see eye to eye on where his value was. And when I started seeing some of these deals coming in for guys like Christian Kirk, Mike Williams, my actual initial thought was, I think Devontae Adams has probably played his last snaps as a Packer. Now that it breaks that from his agents, by the way, that it wasn't about the money. It was just him needing a new change of scenery. So that leads me to believe that, the relationship with the front office had frayed to a point where he just was not coming back to be a Packer. So you flip him for as much capital as you can get. Now for the Raiders side, what I will say is I agree. I don't think he's going to win a ring there. That division is a meat grinder, but I have loved the Raiders offseason, and this might be a hot take, but I am of the opinion that each team in the AFC West now has the capability to beat every other team in the AFC West on any given Sunday when you look at their rosters. So, yeah, I mean, I just think about Devontae Adams going up against the Chiefs secondary, which is Swiss cheese. And I'm just, so, I mean, I think it's a great move for Las Vegas. The Packers don't get better by this move. Obviously, anytime you lose the top player at their position, it's not a plus move. But I thought they got decent value back, and they are going to be able to use some of that value to address the position. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But good move for Las Vegas.
But,
Yeah.
before we move on, like, this isn't a critique or it's just more of an observation, I think, from any fan. Maybe you're right. It probably did sour with the front office, but isn't that where if there is such a good relationship between him and Rodgers, if you're the GM, do you not lean on your star quarterback and say, "Hey, man, you got to fix this because we're better when he's on our roster"? Like, do you think that my question to everybody that's a Packers fan is, who really is Aaron Rodgers? Like, is he just this big diva, or is he a leader that can keep people together?
I think the Packers are treading very lightly on what they say to Aaron Rodgers right now, regardless of him signing his new deal with them. All it takes is one bad thing, and he's like, "Fine, I'm gonna retire. Go play with my love."
I guess that's the difference between me and everybody else in the world. Is I just tell Aaron Rodgers stuff. I'm not gonna say it because we're live on a podcast. F off, like, dude. My job as the GM is to win us football games so you can have a ring, and you're either in or you're out, and you got to go fix this relationship with the best wide receiver. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get it. He's a Hall of Fame quarterback, but if the Packers, in my opinion, really want to win a ring, a lot of it is, Aaron, you got to start leading this organization. And maybe the bad blood there is they didn't let him in the past. You know what I mean? Like, if you look at LeBron, he essentially has assembled some championship teams on his own. And I know NBA players have far more pull in their league, but if you're Aaron Rodgers, like, you have to see the writing on the wall. That's why my question is, even though you lost the top wide receiver at his position, I wonder if Aaron Rodgers doesn't think they're going to be better without him, because I think he wants to win a Super Bowl too, and he would have been like, whoa. You're trading Devontae Adams? Let me fix this. So I wonder if Aaron was like, secretly, I wonder if he gave him a green light to do that. When you think about it.
Here's what I will say, and reports did come out that he knew about this, right?
Before he signed.
Before he signed, right? So there is kind of the assumption that he greenlit this a little bit, otherwise he wouldn't have re-signed. What I will say is that a lot of this, the will he, won't he return, going back to last offseason, stemmed from he didn't feel like he was getting enough say in the roster construction. Well, Aaron,
Now
you're-
you
you're-
can. Yeah.
yep. Now you're seeing Tom Brady in your own conference, unretiring, and getting to recruit 80 different guys to build a super team. You're going to have to do a little bit of that as well if you want to hope to compete. And I think the Packers still have a championship caliber roster, but yeah, I mean, if we go into the season with that wide receiver room the way it is, that offense is not going to look anywhere near the same. So he's going to have to put on his GM cap a little bit in order to maybe recruit some of these free agents and convince them to maybe take some team friendly deals.
Yeah. I feel like Rodgers. I'm sorry, Rusty. Is it okay if I say one more thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like he sees so much potential in Alan Lazard and the other guys too. Amari Rodgers. There has to be something there. I mean, I think that's why he let Devontae go. He sees a lot of potential in these young guys. I mean, yeah, go get a veteran wide receiver to help out, but if he knew this beforehand, he sees potential in some of these guys. So hopefully they step up.
Too bad Buffalo re-signed Jake Kumaro already.
That would have been nice, actually.
That's Aaron's guy.
Yeah.
But the Raiders, before we move to the Deshaun trade, Raiders offense wise is looking very good. Like Logan said, their offseason's been pretty good, just like the rest of the division. Derek Carr, Josh Jacobs, Kenyon Drake at running back, Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfrow, Brian Edwards at wide receiver, and then Darren Waller, Foster Moreau at tight end. Can add Jakob Johnson if you want at fullback as well. But yeah, that's the Devontae trade. Gonna go back up to the Deshaun Watson trade. The bigger of all the trades, biggest one. So this thing was crazy from the start. It was the Browns, Saints, Falcons, Panthers. St. Patty's night. The Browns are out. The Panthers are out. So that's the Saints and Falcons. I'm like, all right, he's going to New Orleans. They're going to make it work somehow. Driving down to Panama City Beach, I'm getting all these notifications. Holy hell, the Browns are back in, and they're getting him. Out of nowhere, they were told they were out by his agents. They kept talking to his agents and got it done. And so it's the 13th overall this year. I feel like it was kind of weird though. The Texans only got one pick this year. It's a first next year, a third next year, a first in 2024, and a fourth in 2024 for Deshaun Watson, and a 2024 fifth. He also signed a 5-year, $230 million deal, all of which is guaranteed. 150 million of that 230 is fully guaranteed. And he surpassed the most guaranteed money in a contract by a lot. The previous record was Aaron Rodgers, 150.7 million. And like I said, his entire contract is guaranteed one way or the other, 230 million total. So almost 80 million above what Aaron Rodgers is guaranteed in his contract. David Mulligetta, his agent, did, an otherworldly job getting this whole thing done. And I've seen him do a lot of other deals. He's been getting a lot of marquee clients. And I had a conversation with someone the other day. I was like, David Mulligetta is approaching Drew Rosenhaus status as top 2 or 3 agents in the business. So go at it, you 3.
One thing I gotta leave. So, but one thing before I do leave, Baker, what are you doing? The letter that he wrote, or what was it, tweet or Instagram post? I don't know what it was, but he folded. He folded. I mean, there was just rumors going around that Deshaun Watson was going to come to Cleveland. There was nothing intact there, and he folded. I mean, this happened in Miami with Tua, where Deshaun Watson could have gone to Miami, but obviously that didn't happen, with all the cases pending. But anyways, what is Baker going to do now? I mean, you really don't. He doesn't have many options, and is he just going to be a career backup, or is he not going to have a chance for at least a few more years? Like, what's going to happen to him? I don't know why he did that to himself. I think it was the dumbest thing he could have done in his career. The Browns are decent. I mean, they're making the playoffs. I don't think they're a Super Bowl team, but at least they had the chance to get there and see what they could do in the playoffs. And now he's just, I don't know. I really don't know what Baker's going to do now. And it sucks for him, but at the same time, that was a stupid thing to do, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think Baker overestimated drastically how the NFL views him and his value. I think he probably thought, okay, well, I'll jump ship and I'll go to Indy. I'll go to a contender or something. And the reports now, especially with Matt Ryan going to Indy, are that Baker doesn't have a big market. So I think he kind of overplayed his hand. He's going to end up somewhere and he might be in a starting role, but yeah, I mean, he probably won't end up in a cushier position than he had with the Browns. So.
I don't think the Browns wanted him, and he saw the writing on the wall. Like, even if they didn't get Deshaun, they weren't going to give him a contract extension. So, I mean, you got to think, even these guys have such high confidence in themselves. I don't think he really cared what his market was. He was just like, I'm leaving out of Cleveland. But on the flip side, man, I was like, when this came out, I was like, Cleveland? Why Cleveland? Well, then you see the contract. I know darn well why Deshaun Watson wanted into Cleveland, and that is a whole lot of guaranteed money. I will say this, though. I will say something about the whole nature of Deshaun Watson being on the move. I actually think Cleveland might be one of the best cities to land in after something like these allegations come out.
Mm-hmm.
Because they'll embrace anyone as long as they win, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? The city of Cleveland isn't going to be as loud as some cities about allegations that came out. Whether someone agrees with me or not, it's just true. It's more hardworking. They'll embrace somebody that, the grand jury said was innocent. They'll forgive them, and let's see what you can do on the field.
Yeah, his contract also, they again, David Mulligetta is a genius. His 2022 base salary is $1 million. That's it, $1 million. That's his base salary, and he got a lot of signing bonus and 2022 roster bonus, because in case he gets suspended, your suspension paychecks come out of your base salary.
Yeah.
You don't get any of your signing bonus taken away. So losing a little bit of $1 million is nothing compared to however much he got signing and his roster bonus. So again, his masterful job by his representation. And it just continues. The AFC, I mean, they kept another quarterback in, and it's just, holy crap. What is the AFC right now? I mean, I mentioned this to someone. I was like, let's just not play the NFC teams. We're just going to have all 16 teams in the AFC play each other for the whole season, and that's how we're going to get to the Super Bowl champion. because you have three teams in the NFC.
I agree. I'm with you.
And you legitimately probably have 11 to 12 teams in the AFC that could compete. So it's just ridiculous. What the AFC, and actually Field Yates tweeted out the list of AFC quarterbacks now that another one has gone, which is the next trade we will talk about.
Somebody said meat grinder earlier, and I think that's the best way to explain it.
The list of AFC quarterbacks. There it is. This is alphabetical order. Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Derek Carr, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Mac Jones, Trevor Lawrence, Patrick Mahomes, Davis Mills, Matt Ryan, Tua Tagovailoa, Ryan Tannehill, Mitch Trubisky, Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, and Zach Wilson.
Some of those we don't have to mention, but I get what they're saying.
Well, that was just all 16 of the AFC starting quarterbacks right now.
Well, I mean, and that goes back to the Baker thing. Like, he might not have a big market, but I see him getting another chance in the NFL somewhere because not every team is solidified at the quarterback position.
I think I can only think of 3 places that Baker can go right now and have a chance to start. That he would have to compete, but there's only 3 spots in my mind. The Seahawks.
When I say chance, it's you have to compete for the starting job.
Yeah, the Seahawks, the Panthers, and the Steelers. But the Browns won't trade him in division, obviously. So.
Well, what about the Giants?
I don't think so. They want a veteran backup to push Daniel Jones. They don't want an open competition with Daniel Jones right now.
Everything can change too. Once the season starts, it could look a little bit different.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't think there's many opportunities for Baker right now. He's going to have to accept that he's a backup. And I think eventually the Browns will release him because they're really going to figure out that no one is going to trade for him. And even though I don't know what his contract, he's on his 5th-year option right now. So that's probably a factor too. The 5th-year option, usually the biggest money out of the 5-year first-round pick. And he's first overall, so that's probably a good chunk of change. And that's fully guaranteed, the 5th-year options. So that's a tough situation as well for Cleveland cap-wise. But, I mean, I hate that he went to Cleveland, Deshaun. He's going to roast the Steelers for many years. And I'm just hoping the Steelers can get the quarterback that they need to compete. I am looking forward to TJ Watt sacking Deshaun Watson, though. Many times.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean, one thing before we get off, the Watson trade is that this is still a huge gamble for the Browns. And I mean, they're doing it because obviously he would be head and shoulders above any other quarterback they've ever had in franchise history. But you just traded away pretty much all your future assets.
Mm-hmm.
You signed him to the highest paid deal in NFL history. And I know he didn't get indicted by the grand jury, but this is a man who's still facing 22 civil lawsuits. And reportedly right now, none of those 22 are currently looking to settle. Okay, so this could still get uglier, before it gets smooth sailing. And the Browns are going to have to potentially still justify this choice with that context. So it's definitely interesting, and it's definitely, I mean, it's unprecedented in NFL history. There's not really been anything like this. So, yeah.
And I love
It
it.
also
Oh, go ahead, Mark.
it also starts the clock on Nick Cesario's time as GM. He's going to get judged by those picks and who he decides to go with.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with the Texans. I mean, Mark, I am the biggest Davis Mills fan that there is.
He is.
I actually loved that he was their first pick last year coming out of Stanford, and he played very well when he got his chances. Just didn't have the roster around him. And I think Nick Cesario, for how weird the offseason was last year where they were just signing everyone that they could, it kind of worked out. I mean, they figured out that they do want to move forward with Davis Mills, and they're not needing to draft a quarterback with their first round pick. And now they have another first round pick. So they can now go ahead with all of these selections and just build around him, build the defense. And I mean, the AFC South is not the greatest, where you pretty much have the Titans and then the rest of the three teams.
Right.
The Colts are, fringe every year so far, last couple. But yeah, I think the Texans are in a good spot. And like you said, Mark, as long as Nick can get it right, I think they'll be very fine. And I don't know. We'll have to see what the 23 and 24 picks are, especially because the AFC is so good. I mean, Cleveland, are they going to win the division? Who knows? Because the Bengals are so good, and the Ravens are decent, and the Steelers still have a championship caliber defense. Whether Mitch Trubisky or Mason Rudolph or Dwayne Haskins or whoever works out at quarterback. I mean, the AFC North is still not – I still think the AFC North is probably the second best division in the AFC. People could probably make a case for the AFC East too. But, yeah.
I really thought, not to keep harping on this, and I'm sure you've thought at some point, like, the great landing spot would be Carolina, right? Like Clemson country's right there.
Yes,
maybe even Atlanta because he's from Gainesville. But I was like, man, it's ready made. They probably would have gave up McCafferty and some picks. Maybe they could have kept him. But then I started to think, why the Panthers were sold? They were sold because of allegations of misconduct by their owner with women. And I think they had another defensive player, like, got physical with a female, 4 or 5 years ago now, maybe a little bit more.
Greg Hardy.
Yeah. And I
heavyweight.
I wonder if that has to be, his agent knows these things. Does that make sense? Like, hey, let's use Carolina as leverage. Like, I would use it as leverage. Like, yeah, we were really thinking about Carolina when really that's not a city you want to touch because of things in the past. And then, bam, you get this guaranteed money. Like you said, just a genius.
That actually wasn't his civil suits actually weren't in play, I believe, weren't an issue for Carolina. The issue for Deshaun's was the contract, because I believe that the Panthers were the number one landing spot. They had been courting him. They had been the team that wanted him for a whole year. And the issue was the guarantees. Cleveland was ready to guarantee everything. All right, Logan.
See you guys.
See ya. But Cleveland was ready to guarantee everything. And the the Panthers were not going to guarantee the third and fourth round, or the third and fourth years of his deal, the new contract. So that's why the Panthers ended up being dropped out of the running, because of guarantees, not the civil suits. But it looks like I'm finally by myself. So we will get this thing done as quick as I can, by myself, and you'll get just one-sided information, I guess. So but enough on the Deshaun Watson trade. The other quarterback trade we had happened today. Matt Ryan to the AFC, to the Indianapolis Colts, filling Carson Wentz's shoes. The Falcons get a 2022 third round selection. That's number 82 overall. That is the Commanders selection that the Colts got for Carson Wentz. So yeah, I think this was a good deal for Indianapolis. Relatively good value for them as well, a third round selection, swapping one quarterback for the other. And it's interesting that it's Matt Ryan and not Jimmy Garoppolo. Garoppolo's younger, a lot younger. I don't know if they got scared off by the shoulder surgery. I don't know. It just seems like Matt Ryan is sort of like Phillip Rivers. It's an older quarterback, not going to play too many years. Rivers, we knew it was only going to be, a 1-year thing, pretty much. But yeah, it's an interesting deal for both teams, and the Falcons made history with this deal. They now take on the largest dead money cap hit ever. That is $40.525 million in dead money, largest ever, surpassing the Eagles and Carson Wentz's dead cap by about $7 million. So yeah, I don't know. Does this get the Colts over the top? I don't think so. They still have a great running game, Jonathan Taylor. Defense is still good. Maybe Matt Ryan can make it work. Again, I think it's probably the worst division in the AFC. So I think they have a chance. Need to beat the Titans, obviously. Texans are always lingering. And they have to beat the Jaguars in Jacksonville. Something that they haven't been able to do since 2014. So, also crazy stat about this. There have been 29 quarterbacks taken in the first round from between 2006 and 2016. None of them are still with their original team. Matt Ryan was the last one. Drafted in 2008, number 1 overall to the Falcons. And the trend continues for the Colts, like we talked about before during the Wentz trade. They will now be, this will be their 7th straight year with a different starting quarterback. Andrew Luck 2016, Scott Tolzien 2017, Andrew Luck 2018, Jacoby Brissett 19, Rivers 2020, Wentz 21, and now Matt Ryan 2022. Okay, I think it's good for the Matt Ryan trade. Before we move on to the next trade, of which we had 8 of them, Adam Schefter just tweeted out, the compensation has changed on the Deshaun Watson trade. The Browns now are giving up 6 selections, 6 draft picks. So the instead of a 2024 fifth round pick going back to the Browns, the Texans are sending a 2024 sixth round pick. And the Browns are also adding in a fourth round pick this year. It is the Lions' fourth round pick, number 107 overall. So that's kind of weird. It gets better for the Texans, worse for the Browns somehow. But that is how the trade has been changed now. Okay, so the next trade we have here, Shaq Mason going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to protect Tom Brady. He's going to a very good roster, and they needed guards. Obviously, Ali Marpet retired. They lost, blanking on his name, in free agency. Went to the Bengals. Alex Kappa. There we go. I knew it was coming. And a fifth round pick is pretty good value, I think, for the Tampa Bay Bucks. They needed to get Tom Brady some help at the interior O-line positions, at the guards specifically, to help with Ryan Jensen at center. So now they only had to fill one spot. So good for them and good for Jason Lake, GM there. The Titans have acquired Robert Woods from the Rams, wide receiver. 2023 sixth is all it took for the Tennessee Titans to get Robert Woods. Now, I don't know if that was because he's coming off the ACL injury, because his contract was too big for the Titans, and that limited the draft compensation the Rams could get. But I think it's an amazing deal for Tennessee, and the Rams offloaded some money. They used some of that money. Possibly will use more of that money for Odell Beckham. But if Robert Woods comes back healthy, I mean, he's going to be a great number 2 to AJ Brown, and a lot better one than what Julio Jones was, who wasn't on the field as much as they wanted. So I think it's an awesome trade for the Titans. And again, it's another player, NFC to the AFC. It's an arms race. You better be good. And there are going to be teams that don't make the playoffs that are very good teams in the AFC. So next one here, the Browns traded quarterback Case Keenum to the Buffalo Bills. 2023 seventh round selection going back to Cleveland in this one. Had to get rid of a quarterback. They signed Jacoby Brissett. Still have Baker on the roster somehow. Added Deshaun. Too many quarterbacks. Had to get rid of one. They found a partner in Buffalo to offload Case Keenum and his deal. So interesting for Buffalo as well. They re-signed Matt Barkley. So I guess it's going to be Josh Allen, and then Keenum and Barkley may duke it out for number 2 opportunity, or since they did trade for Case Keenum goes to number 2. Barkley stays the number 3, like he was last year, behind Allen and Trubisky. Have to watch that. The last two here are player for player deals. This player for player deal is kind of crazy. I thought that the Raiders could get a lot more for Yannick Ngakoue. I think he had a nice season with Vegas, last couple seasons in Vegas. he was doing pretty well, opposite of Max Crosby. The Colts, though, get Yannick Ngakoue for corner Rock Yassin, former second-round selection out of Temple, was Rock Yassin. Raiders needed secondary help, and they got it. They're banking on his development, and Ngakoue follows his previous defensive coordinator, Gus Bradley, who had him in Jacksonville and in Vegas. So he follows him to Indianapolis, where we've seen him do great with Gus Bradley. So I think it's a good move for the Colts. And Frank Reich's crew. We'll have to see how Yassin works out for Vegas. Last trade here, the Patriots trading linebacker Chase Winovich to the Browns for linebacker Mac Wilson. Now, two different positions, even though they both say linebacker. Winovich is an outside linebacker, pass rushing, 3-4 guy. Mac Wilson is a off-ball linebacker, whether that be in a 3-4 or a 4-3. Played in a 4-3 in Cleveland, going to play in a 3-4 in Bill Belichick's defense in New England. Winovich, on the other hand, we'll have to see in Cleveland whether he transitions to defensive end or if he stays as an outside linebacker on a 4-3 where he's off the ball. But the Browns were looking for more pass rush, and both players wanted to change scenery. Wilson, a second-round selection. I think both were. Winovich might have been a third-rounder, but yeah, both get a nice new destination for them. Okay, back to NFL news. The restricted free agent tenders. So, mentioned the Packers tendered wide receiver Alan Lazard at the second-round level. The 49ers did the same with linebacker Azeez Al-Shaair. So, again, just under $4 million for that tender there. Original round tenders put out to Steelers quarterback Dwayne Haskins. So, that would mean a team wanting to put an offer sheet for him would have to pay a first-round pick for Dwayne Haskins because he was a first-rounder with Washington. And that is $2.54 million there. Also getting paid $2.54 million is Rams kicker Matt Gay, who has been stunning for them. Originally a fifth-rounder, so a fifth-round pick would be the compensation for another team signing Matt Gay to an offer sheet. And then right of first refusal tenders. That means that a team has the right to match any offer that comes in for that player. But if that player goes somewhere else, they will not receive any additional compensation. Those tenders were put out for Falcons wide receiver Olamide Zaccheaus. The tender is $2.433 million. Also getting the right of first refusal, Eagles guard Nate Herbig, Jets kicker Eddie Pinheiro, Saints defensive tackle Shai Tuttle, and Commanders kicker Joey Sly. Okay, one reworked deal here to stay. The Chiefs redid defensive end Frank Clark's deal. It is now 2 years, $29 million, $36 million max for Clark to stay in Kansas City. Good move for them. They traded for him. Hasn't produced as much as they would have liked so far. So they're hoping that the next 2 years he will up that sack production and quarterback pressures. So now let's get into re-signings here. There's a bunch of them. And it's by money. So Rams. The Rams signed quarterback Matthew Stafford to a 4-year, $160 million extension. $135 million guaranteed. It's really a 3-year deal with the added year on the end. Or actually, this is his total contract, I believe, the next 4 seasons together with the last year he already had on his current deal. So yeah, the Rams keep spending money and don't know where it's coming from. The magical salary cap situation that Les Snead has created in LA, the land of the dreams, I guess, out there. So sure, why not? I don't know if Matthew Stafford was the sole reason that they won the Super Bowl. Yes, he did hit Cooper Kupp to set up the game-winning field goal against the Bucs. Yes, he did throw the game-winning touchdown to Cooper Kupp in the Super Bowl. But there were also some very terrible times. The Titans game comes to mind. 2 pick sixes for that one. But he has a ring now, and it worked out. So why not, Rams? The Packers also got Aaron Rodgers' new deal signed by him. 3 years, $150 million extension. It's really a 2-year, $124 million deal. Again, just added year on the end to help for cap purposes. And that's what I said initially. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to play 2 years. He's going to hit 40 years old and retire. So a couple more seasons for the Packers and their star quarterback there. The Panthers signing wide receiver DJ Moore to a 3-year, $61.844 million extension with $41.64 million guaranteed. I think it's a great deal for the Panthers. It's right in line with the top of the market right now, $20 million for receivers. Mike Williams got that. Christian Kirk got 21. And Devontae Adams obviously got way more than that, but it's a good deal for Carolina. He is definitely their best receiver and one of the top 10 receivers, top 5, whatever, top 10. I would say. I wouldn't put in top 5, but top 10 receivers in the league. Just got to find the right guy to throw to him. So the Bucks, they signed their franchise tag wide receiver Chris Godwin to a 3-year, $60 million deal, $40 million fully guaranteed. Again, it's right at the market price, $20 million per season for top wide receivers. Him and Mike Evans will continue to produce at the position, even though I think it's a nice deal for Chris Godwin. The Bucks trusted him. They looked at his rehab schedule coming off a torn ACL near the end of the season last year, and they think he'll be fine. Apparently, this says that they think that, and he'll get another chance to test for agency in a couple of years. So yeah, I like the deal for that. Or for them. Going back to Carolina, the Panthers signed corner Dante Jackson to a 3-year, $35.1 million extension. Again, it's a nice deal. I like it. He is by far their top corner. They have him, CJ Henderson, JC Horn. And when they didn't do this with James Bradbury a couple years ago, and they drafted Dante Jackson in the second round, it's cool to see them doing it now with a guy that replaced James Bradbury. So the Saints today re-signed quarterback Jameis Winston. 2 years, $28 million, $21 million guaranteed. That I think that's a good deal. The Saints really, once they lost out on the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes, they were like, okay, we have Jameis here. He wants to stay in New Orleans and was producing for them before he got injured. So when he comes back from the ACL injury, should once again be fine. It'll be intriguing to watch, though. No Sean Payton there anymore. Dennis Allen kept most of the coaching staff together, though. So I think they should be fine. Just need some more weapons around them. So the Falcons, we're just doing all NFC South right now. But they're at top in terms of money-wise. The Falcons, look at them go. Kickers. Kickers are people, too, as Rich Eisen would say. The Falcons signed kicker Younghoe Koo, 5 years, $24.25 million. That's an amazing deal for him. Came onto the scene a couple years ago for Atlanta. Has to be the best onside kick guy in the league. I mean, I still can't forget against the Cowboys. Was it 2 years ago? 3 onside kicks in a row. It was crazy. Absolutely crazy that he got them. Packers re-signed corner Rasul Douglas, 3 years, $21 million. That's a great deal for him, man. Former Eagles second-round pick, bounced around after he left Philadelphia and signed off the Cardinals practice squad mid-season. All that he did was have 5 interceptions down the stretch for Green Bay and be their best corner without Jair Alexander when he was injured. So it's a great story for him to be back in a starting role. And the Packers thought enough of him to re-sign him to a good deal. Texans, they re-signed defensive tackle Malik Collins, 2 years, $17 million, $8.5 million guaranteed. Came over from Dallas last year in free agency. Liked what they saw and is staying in the Lovie Smith defense, considering that he is now the head coach. So a good signing by Houston there. Lions, they re-signed defensive end Charles Harris to a 2-year, $14 million deal. Again, it's sort of like Malik Collins stays in Detroit, where he had success coming over as a defunct first-round pick from the Dolphins, signing in free agency to Detroit, and had a nice season. So gets rewarded for his efforts in Detroit and Dan Campbell's team. The Eagles. So they initially released Fletcher Cox with a post-June 1 designation. That helps them cap in the future when they get that cap space. But they did re-sign Fletcher Cox now, 1 year, $14 million. It's a good deal. Fletcher Cox has been one of the staples of the Eagles franchise since he was drafted in 2008 and continues to produce. It took a bit of a turn since he hit 30, but again, he's a franchise icon, and it's hard to let those players walk. So great job by Howie Roseman getting the deal done to bring Fletcher Cox back. Staying in division, the Commanders re-signed defensive back Bobby McCain, 2 years, $11 million. Had a nice season coming over from Miami. Did Bobby McCain for Washington last year. So good deal for them. Next one I love. I've talked about him a lot. Broncos re-signing linebacker Josie Jewell. former Iowa Hawkeye. I hate Iowa so much, but love Josie Jewell. Good player for them. Off-ball linebacker. They needed to re-sign one of their guys, considering they had a lot of starters that were free agents. So 2 years, $11 million for Josie Jewell. Good discount for the Broncos and good deal for him. The Cowboys, they re-signed safety Jaron Kearse to a 2-year, $10 million deal, re-signing both their starting safeties from last year. They also re-signed safety Malik Hooker as well, 2 years, $8 million. So they didn't get any of the top free agents at the safety position. That market has been a little bit weird, but they do get both their guys back. The Patriots, they re-signed linebacker Jawan Bentley, 2 years, $9 million max on that deal. Relatively good deal for him. Not the greatest linebacker, but I think $4.5 million per year is pretty good money value wise for New England at the off-ball linebacker position. The Texans, they re-signed defensive back Desmond King, 2 years, $7 million, $3.5 million fully guaranteed. Like that for Houston. Again, it's another guy returning in the same system, Lovie Smith's defense, and a special teams threat as well, returning punts and kicks, I think. The Commanders re-signed the running back J.D. McKissick, 2 years, $7 million. Was one of the interesting things last week when free agency was starting. Originally, J.D. McKissick signed with the Buffalo Bills for the same amount, 2 years, $7 million. And then Washington was like, oh, crap, you want to go to Buffalo? Okay, here's the same deal. Please stay with us. So Carson Wentz gets a nice receiving back to stay in Washington, and the Commanders keep one of their own. The Seahawks re-signed running back Rashad Penny, 1 year, $5.75 million. I think that's a fantastic re-signing for them. Would have liked to see a more long-term deal, but I understand. Rashad Penny has had injury issues throughout his career. Has to prove that his 6-game stretch at the end of the year was not a fluke. And he'll have to do it without Russell Wilson. And more than likely, Dwayne Brown as well at left tackle. So we'll see if he can replicate it. Let's see what the Seahawks do in the draft. So, but there you go. Rashad Penny back in Seattle for all you fantasy Knicks out there. The Colts re-signed offensive tackle Matt Pryor, 1 year, $5.5 million. Good re-signing for them. Right tackle option for Indy, going to help protect Matt Ryan coming up this season. Patriots, they re-signed kicker Nick Folk, 2 year, $5 million extension, $2.19 million guaranteed. It's pretty solid. I think Nick Folk getting on the older side, but he was still effective for New England last year. So a good deal all around. The Steelers re-signed defensive tackle Montravius Adams, 2 years, $5 million. He's had some pop, coming over from Green Bay, I believe it was, last year, 2 years ago. Developmental guy in the rotation there at defensive line. Patriots, of course. Who else? Where else is he going to go? Patriots re-signed running back James White, 2 years, $5 million. Again, good value. New England likes to find the value, except for last year when they shelled out the money. But yeah, James White is a Patriot. He's not going to be anything else. The Browns, they re-signed linebacker Anthony Walker, 1 year, $5 million. He was very good for Cleveland coming over from Indianapolis in free agency. and will continue to do so, I believe, on a improved Cleveland defense. The Titans re-signed kicker Randy Bullock, 2 years, $4.68 million. Again, another kicker that has been relatively solid for his team. Gets a little bit under the $5 million that Nick Folk got, but Bullock was pretty good for Tennessee. Texans re-signed tight end Pharaoh Brown, 1 year, $4 million. Good re-signing there. Pharaoh Brown has had his moments, but I think of him as more of a blocking tight end. But he is 6'6", 6'7", something like that. So he does have that red zone capability for Davis Mills and the Texans. Texans also re-signed linebacker Camu Grugier-Hill, 1 year, $4 million as well. He has had a nice career in Houston, over 100 tackles last year, and a key special teams player as well. Was good with Miami and now good with Houston, and they are keeping him for one more season. The Bengals re-signed corner Eli Apple, 1 year, $4 million. I was shocked that happened. For one, because Bengals fans were outraged at Eli Apple for his very poor performance in the Super Bowl. And I didn't know that he was going to get re-signed at all. So that was a surprise to me anyways. It makes sense for Cincinnati. They needed help on the back end. And so to keep a guy that already knows the Lou Anarumo defense is, I think, a good thing, regardless of how he played in the Super Bowl. The Jets re-signed quarterback Joe Flacco, 1 year, $3.5 million. It's a good signing for them. Joe Flacco played relatively well in the couple instances he had to, and is a good mentor for Zach Wilson to lean on. Dolphins re-signed linebacker Landon Roberts, 1 year, $3.25 million. Landon Roberts had a nice time in Miami. Not going to be playing in the New England style defense with Brian Flores, but I believe they kept the D coordinator in Miami, so it will still be similar depending on what new head coach Mike McDaniel wants to do and change for the defense. Couple quarterbacks staying put. Chargers re-signing quarterback Chase Daniel, 1 year, $2.25 million to stay as Justin Herbert's backup. Chiefs doing the same with quarterback Chad Henne, 1 year, $2 million. This will now be his 5th straight season backing up Patrick Mahomes and KC. The Ravens, they re-signed fullback Patrick Ricard to a 3-year deal. Great signing by them. Patrick Ricard is is the AFC version of Kyle Juszczyk in San Francisco, I think. He does everything, can catch the ball, can run the ball, plays special teams. So good signing, re-signing by the Ravens there. Patriots, they re-signed offensive tackle Trent Brown to a 2-year deal. He had visited a couple teams, but ends up going back to New England and protecting the front side of Mac Jones. Eagles, they re-signed wide receiver Greg Ward to a 1-year deal. Happy about that. Greg Ward's been a good story for Philadelphia. Converted quarterback from Houston a couple years ago. Finally got his chance and has done pretty well as a wide receiver in Philly. The Cardinals re-signed tight end Max Williams to a 1-year deal. That was an interesting signing. Considering the Cardinals have Zach Ertz, but Max Williams was having a really good season before he got hurt, and I would look to see the Cardinals maybe run some more 2 tight ends. If they want to run the ball, more with James Conner, run 2 tight ends, Max Williams and Zach Ertz could get it done. The Texans, they re-signed running back Royce Freeman to a 1-year deal. Played a little bit down the stretch for Houston. Didn't do too much, but I guess they like what they saw in practices and in the limited reps he did get to keep him on for 1 more season there. The Cowboys, intriguing move here. They re-signed former first-round pick linebacker Leighton Vander Esch to a 1-year deal. Has not lived up to the hype. His coverage ability has really been lacking, I think, for Dallas. So they wanted Micah Parsons to be able to rush the passer more, and this gives them that capability, at least for this season. The Falcons, they re-signed corner Isaiah Oliver to a 1-year deal, former 2nd-round pick for them. Stays in Atlanta for 1 more season anyways, and we'll see how he develops. The Eagles re-signing a couple other guys to 1-year deals. Those 2 are safety Anthony Harris and running back Boston Scott. Love Boston Scott. He is a giant killer. He has just annihilated the Giants every time he plays them, and I absolutely love it. So, yeah, happy about Boston Scott. I wasn't so sure about the Anthony Harris re-signing. I didn't think he really did much this year. I think he was hurt a couple games, but I just was not that big of a fan of what Anthony Harris did in his 1 season in Philadelphia. But we'll see. We'll see. I mean, they needed to do something at the safety position. Rodney McLeod and Anthony Harris both free agents, so they brought Harris back. And hopefully it works out. Hopefully they do something else in the safety market to fix that position. And then the Bills, they re-signed quarterback Matt Barkley to a 1-year deal. I already mentioned that earlier. Interesting situation, whether it's going to be Keenum or Barkley as the number 2, whether they have to battle for that spot. Who knows? But Barkley back in Buffalo. Say that 3 times fast. The Bucks, they re-signed wide receiver Brashad Perriman, so he is back in Tampa with TB12. The Saints re-signing corner Bradley Roby, got him in a trade with the Texans last year, and liked enough from what they saw. Head coach Dennis Allen liked him, so they are keeping him. And the Falcons re-signed running back Cordero Patterson. Interesting nugget on Patterson re-signing with Atlanta. This is the first time in his career that he has gotten a second contract with a team that he's played for. Didn't do it with the Vikings, didn't do it with the Bears, and now finally does it in Atlanta. Okay, so free agency moves now. The biggest money deal we had here. Bills signed Rams linebacker Von Miller to a 6-year, $120 million deal. $51.5 million guaranteed, $45 million fully guaranteed. He gets $70 million over the first 4 years of the deal, and that's really the number to look at. The last 2 years of the deal are really void years. So 70 over 4 is more of what the deal actually is. And and it's a massive one for Von Miller. And the Bills needed pass rush. You saw that was an issue in the AFC divisional round game against the Kansas City Chiefs. They just could not get to Patrick Mahomes, even if the secondary was holding up. They did not have the pass rush to be able to get to elite quarterbacks. So they go out, they sign a guy in Von Miller, has experience, played very well for the Rams once he got to LA. And he's a two-time Super Bowl champion. It's not a bad thing to have that pedigree within your organization. The Ravens, they signed Saints safety Marcus Williams, 5 years, $70 million, $37 million guaranteed. The Ravens had to address the safety position. They still have Chuck Clark, I believe, but the secondary was becoming an issue, especially the depth. They were injured a lot this year in the secondary, really hampered their defense. So Marcus Williams, probably the top safety in free agency this offseason, gets the biggest money and goes to Baltimore. The Broncos, they signed Cowboys defensive end Randy Gregory, 5 years, $70 million, $28 million guaranteed. This was just like J.D. McKissick, except the opposite. Randy Gregory was all set to re-sign with the Cowboys again, just like McKissick, for the same deal, 5 years, $70 million. And there was a clause that if Gregory was suspended again for any reasons, he would essentially void out his contract or void his guarantees, which was an issue for him. So he's like, okay, if you're going to put that in, that's fine. I'll go sign in Denver and go to the AFC. So that's what he did. And the Broncos get a much-needed bookend for Bradley Chubb. And the arms race continues offensively and defensively in the AFC West. The Raiders, they signed Cardinals pass rusher Chandler Jones, 3 years, $52.5 million, $34 million guaranteed. Again, like I said, arms race, offensively, defensively, it doesn't matter. Might as well put the special teams players in there too, because the AFC West is just loaded with talent now. And Chandler Jones now gets to be on the opposite end of Max Crosby. And who do you block? I mean, I don't have that answer. So that's the dilemma for the AFC West and the AFC teams in general when you're playing an AFC West team right now. Who do you block? The Jags, we mentioned this signing, but we have the actual numbers now. Signed Commanders guard Brandon Sheriff, 3 years, $52.5 million, $30 million fully guaranteed. Pretty good deal. It's a lot of money to put into a guard, especially when they have Cam Robinson on the second franchise tag. So I don't know. We'll see how that works out for them. The Rams signed Bears wide receiver Allen Robinson, 3 years, $46.5 million deal. Kind of came out of nowhere. His market was pretty stale for a little bit. A couple days after free agency started, finally gets signed and goes to the Super Bowl champs. So that offense could look a lot different. I think Allen Robinson's comparable to Robert Woods, probably better athletically than Robert Woods is, but I don't know if he's better at blocking in the run game than Robert Woods was for LA. So we'll have to see how Allen works out in LA with Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp and co. The 49ers, they signed Chiefs corner Charvarius Ward to a 3-year, $42 million deal, $26.7 million guaranteed. Great signing for San Francisco. They needed secondary help, specifically corner, very badly. After Richard Sherman went to Tampa last year in free agency, they really were in a tight bind, and they had injuries at the position, and it was not good for San Francisco. So good signing for them. Good story for him as well. Travarius Ward, undrafted free agent a couple of years ago. So developed in Kansas City and now in San Francisco. The Jets, they signed Seahawks corner DJ Reed, 3 years, $33 million there. Another team that very much needed secondary help and corner help. Get their guy in Seahawks corner DJ Reed. Pretty solid couple of seasons for him in Seattle. Maybe not the flashy signing that Jets fans wanted in like a Marcus Williams at safety. But I think it'll turn out just fine for New York. The Chiefs, they signed Texan safety Justin Reed, 3 years, $31.5 million, $20 million guaranteed. Fills the shoes of Tyrann Mathieu, who they are not going to re-sign. I think it put out sort of like Eagles beat writer Jeff McLean was saying, it's kind of an indictment on Tyrann Mathieu right now, where the safety market is going, and the fact that Tyrann Mathieu is still not signed with anyone. The Eagles may have interest. I just think Tyrann Mathieu is going to have to accept a 1-year deal and for less money and see and prove that he still has not, that he hasn't lost a step, still can play at a high level. And we're waiting to see where the Honey Badger goes. Broncos, they signed 49ers defensive tackle DJ Jones, 3 years, $30 million, $20 million fully guaranteed. Again, continuing to build up the defense to stop Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, and Derek Carr and co. The Jags, they signed Rams corner Darius Williams, 3 years, $30 million, $18 million fully guaranteed. Another team in need of secondary help. Darius Williams had a great couple of seasons in LA. I believe he was a 5th round pick, I think, of the Rams. And good signing by the Jags there. Also signing with the Jags. Raiders wide receiver Zay Jones, 3 years, $30 million as well. Going to help Trevor Lawrence there. Probably be the number 3, I would think. Behind Christian Kirk and Laviska Shenault. The Bengals, massive get for them today or over this weekend. Bengals signing Cowboys offensive tackle Lyle Collins, 3 years, $30 million. Continues to get $10 million a year like he was going to get with the Cowboys on the last year of his deal. But he now fits in at right tackle. They already signed Alex Kappa. They already signed, I'm blanking on the third guy that they signed, but they signed him too. If they go draft offensive lineman now, I mean, they could do exactly what the Chiefs did last year and fix this thing in one season. Theoretically, anyways. We'll have to see. Let's see how it all fits together in Cincinnati there. The Saints, they replaced safety Marcus Williams with their own free agent safety, signing Jets safety Marcus May, 3 years, $28.5 million, $15 million guaranteed there for New Orleans and Marcus May. We'll have to see if he can live up to his franchise tag that he was on last year in Dennis Allen's defense. The Steelers love this move, signed offensive lineman James Daniels, 3 years, $26.5 million, Positional versatility, can play all three spots along the interior offensive line. So I love that. We may now, as much as I loved watching Kendrick Green at center last year as a 5th-round rookie, might push him out to guard. James Daniels may slide in at center. If not, vice versa, put Daniels at guard and keep Green at center. The Chargers, they signed Rams defensive tackle Sebastian Joseph Day, 3 years, $24 million, $15 million fully guaranteed for him. Was a big priority for the Chargers this offseason. Had to get interior defensive line help for them. So I love the move. Maybe it's not going to be Jordan Davis at 17 now, like everyone's predicted. So Joseph Day to the Chargers, just head across the facility from the Rams side to the Chargers. The Seahawks, they signed Chargers pass rusher Uchenna Nwosu, 2 years, $20 million, $10.5 million guaranteed. Uchenna Nwosu's been under the radar a little bit, I feel like, the last couple of seasons. Pretty productive pass rusher. Just has never been touted as that guy that's going to be a top pass rusher and make you game plan around him. So we'll see if that changes. He's getting a big opportunity in Seattle on a team that is, in transition, to say the least. So, but there is a lot of opportunity in Seattle with not many marquee pass rush options there. The Vikings, they signed Bills defensive tackle Harrison Phillips, 3 years, $19.5 million, $13 million guaranteed. Another team that needed some defensive line help, interior and on one of the defensive end spots, opposite of Daniil Hunter. So good for them to get Harrison Phillips from Buffalo. Giants, they signed Texans quarterback Tyrod Taylor, 2 years, $17 million, $8.5 million guaranteed. So there is that guy, like I was mentioning earlier, to push possibly Daniel Jones a little bit. Not so much that he is threatening to take Daniel Jones's job, but they wanted a guy that Daniel can lean on in tough situations, and that they can lean on if it ends up that Daniel Jones isn't the guy that Brian Daboll and GM Joe Shane thought they were getting when they signed in New York. Ravens, they signed Vikings defensive tackle Michael Pierce, 3 years, $16.5 million. He goes back to Baltimore, where he started his career. Much needed defensive, interior defensive line help for them. Calais Campbell is getting older. Derek Wolfe is getting older. So they needed some younger blood. I mean, Pierce is not that young. But it is to add a veteran presence and a guy they know, even without Wink Martindale, with Wink Martindale moving on to the Giants this offseason. The Steelers, absolutely love this one. They signed Jags linebacker Miles Jack, 2 years, $16 million. Kind of funny because they've gotten Jags linebackers in back-to-back years, Joe Schobert, and now Miles Jack. But yeah, Miles Jack released from the Jags. I love the deal for Pittsburgh. It's an affordable deal, and I think it's a guy that has been productive in his career and can continue the legacy of the Steelers linebacker tradition. Panthers, they signed Cowboy safety Xavier Woods, 3 years, $15.75 million for them. Needed some safety help. Jeremy Chin is more of a linebacker than a safety. So the linebackers are perfectly fine. Just need some safety help, and I think that's what Xavier Woods will contribute there. Steelers, they signed Vikings offensive lineman Mason Cole, 3 years, $15.75 million as well. Another guy, just like James Daniels, has positional versatility, can play all three positions, has done so with both the Cardinals and Vikings, the other two teams he's been with throughout his career. So another signing to beef up the interior O-line for them. The Jets, they have their Marcus May replacement. It is Buccaneers safety Jordan Whitehead, 2 years, $14.5 million. Very affordable deal for New York. I think Chris would be very proud of that deal for the Jets, and think it's a win-win for both camps. The Steelers, we mentioned they signed Mitch Trubisky from the Bills. We do have the numbers now. It's a 2-year, $14.25 million deal, $27 million max in playtime incentives for Pittsburgh and the Trubisky, as I like to call him. But I think it's a good deal. I like it. He's gonna have to fight a little bit. I don't know how much of a fight Mason Rudolph will put up. That is if they don't draft another quarterback as well. So, which Kevin Colbert was at the Pitt Pro Day today, watching Kenny Pickett. Sorry about that. But yeah, I like the deal for Pittsburgh and Trubisky. The Browns, they signed Dolphins wide receiver / kick returner Jakeem Grant, 3 years, $13.8 million for them. Added special teams ability as well. So it's a great get for Cleveland, I think. I think they needed some help in the punt return game. So like that deal for them. The Jets, they signed Texans defensive end Jacob Martin, 3 years, $13.5 million, $6 million guaranteed. More of an underrated developmental pass rusher, has had some ups and downs throughout his time with the Texans the last couple of seasons. So yeah, the Jets need all the pass rush help they can get, which there you go, Jacob Martin. The Chargers, they signed Seahawks tight end Gerald Everett to a 2-year, $12 million deal, $8 million fully guaranteed. Comes back to LA where he was with the Rams 2 years ago. Seahawks last year didn't work out in Seattle and had some moments though. But back with the Chargers, who were looking for a tight end. Jared Cook is older on last year of his deal. And Gerald Everett gives Justin Herbert another option in the passing game there for LA. The Raiders, they signed Bears defensive tackle Bilal Nichols, 2 years, $11 million, $9 million guaranteed. Again, it's just beefing up that interior D line there. I like the move. Bilal Nichols is a pretty good defensive lineman, was on a couple of those solid Bears defenses the last couple of years. The Falcons, they signed Raiders corner Casey Hayward to a 2-year, $11 million deal. Atlanta desperately needed secondary help. They re-signed Isaiah Oliver, like I said. Casey Hayward hasn't had the greatest run the last couple of years with the Chargers and the Raiders, but an option nonetheless for the Falcons and Arthur Smith's squad. The 49ers, they signed Colts safety George Odom, 3 years, $10.95 million. Odom, a pretty good safety for Indianapolis and Matt Eberflus before he went to Chicago. Odom, I think, can also play some special teams if you need him to. And he will be that third safety for D'Amico Ryans and the Niners after Jimmy Ward and Jaquiski Tartt. The Chiefs got some help in the receiving game, signing Steelers wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster, 1 year, $10.75 million. It's a good deal. I think Juju is going to do fine for Kansas City. We'll see how he likes not getting that many targets. because he does have a little bit of a personality, but going to a great squad. I'm happy for him in that regard, and he's just gonna fill whatever role he's given. After Kelsey Hill and Hardman, I guess. But Juju could be that third guy. Who knows? The Vikings, they signed Cardinals linebacker Jordan Hicks. 2 years, $10 million, $12 million max, $6.5 million guaranteed. Love that pickup from Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and the Vikings there. Wished Jordan was going to come back to Philly because we need some off-ball linebackers as well. But it's a good fit, I think, in Kevin O'Connell's defense there. So good for Minnesota. The Bears, they signed Colts defensive end Al-Qadim Muhammad, 2 years, $10 million. Very underrated pass rusher for Indianapolis the last couple of seasons. The Bears are getting a solid defensive end that has developmental pass rush upside. The Lions, they signed Jags wide receiver DJ Chark, 1 year, $10 million, fully guaranteed deal. It's a reset for a DJ Chark. I mean, he was great for Jacksonville coming off an injury now, broken ankle last year. Has a chance to, like I said, reset, play well with Jared Goff. He has other receivers as well. They re-signed Josh Reynolds to a 2-year deal. They still have Amon-Ra St. Brown on his rookie deal going into his second season. So, I mean, the Lions receiving core is not that bad. Chark, Reynolds, and St. Brown. I think Jared Goff might have a better season than people expect this year. The Steelers, I love this signing for Pittsburgh, signed Bills corner Levi Wallace, 2 years, $8 million deal, affordable for Pittsburgh. And the Steelers, again, were another team that needed secondary help at the corner position. Joe Hayden's older. Levi Wallace has been an underrated guy in Buffalo for years. And he's coming to Pittsburgh. There's defense. He's going to play behind one of the best front sevens in the game. So please, Levi, play well for us. Because we're going to need the defense this year. And maybe next year too. The Panthers, absolutely love the signing. Signed Rams punter Johnny Hecker, 3 years, $7.6 million, $5 million fully guaranteed. I mean, is Johnny Hecker not the best punter in football? I know he's the best dual threat punter in football because he is the best trick play artists, fake punt artists in the game. There's no other punter that can perform fake punts like Johnny Hecker can. And he's got an arm. He can throw it. So a big get for the Panthers special teams there. The Dolphins, they signed Raiders fullback Alec Ingold, 2 years, $7.5 million. He's going to fill that Kyle Juszczyk role for Mike McDaniel in the new Miami offense there. Love Alec Ingold, man. Wisconsin Badger. And he's he's good at running. He's good at blocking. He's good at receiving. So the Steelers, they signed Patriots kick returner Gunnar Olszewski, 2 year, $4.2 million. It's a good move for their special teams. They need some kick return help as well, so he can do that and punts. So Bears, they signed Chiefs wide receiver Byron Pringle, 1 year, $4 million, fully guaranteed. It's a good deal. Had relative success in Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes. We'll see how he works out with Justin Fields. The Bills, they signed Jets wide receiver Jamison Crowder to a 1-year, $4 million deal. Interesting move for them. They let Cole Beasley go, and they get their new slot receiver in Jamison Crowder to pair with Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis outside. Bills, they signed Bucks tight end OJ Howard, 1 year, $3.5 million deal. Intriguing move. He again is coming off another injury plagued season. So look for him to kind of try to revitalize his career behind Dawson Knox and that Buffalo offense. The Dolphins, they signed Niners running back Raheem Mostert, 1 year, $3.125 million. Again, it's the 49ers connection with head coach Mike McDaniel. Not sure what the Dolphins are doing at running back. They've signed a couple now, and we'll have to see. Maybe it's going to be that Kyle Shanahan thing, you know. Who's hot? The committee system. The Patriots, they signed Texans corner Terrence Mitchell to a 1 year, $3 million deal. Yeah, Terrence Mitchell's been pretty good. Was good with Cleveland. Wasn't that good, I don't think, with the Texans last year, but he'll get a chance in New England. Seahawks, they signed Bears corner Artie Burns, 1 year, $2 million. Hasn't worked out. Didn't work out in Chicago after he signed as a former first-round pick with the Steelers. So we'll see. Again, the Seahawks are like the land of opportunity right now. There's a lot of open spots, I think, on that team. And there's a lot of snaps to be had. So the Bears, they signed Chargers D-tackle Justin Jones to a 2-year deal, trying to beef up. Mentioned they lost Bilal Nichols to the Raiders. Also released nose tackle Eddie Goldman. So get a guy back here with Justin Jones, who's had a pretty good run with the Chargers. The Falcons, they got their Matt Ryan replacement today, signing Raiders quarterback Marcus Mariota to a 2-year, $18.75 million deal. I like the move for Atlanta. I think based off the options, which were really Jimmy Garoppolo, Baker Mayfield, Jameis was probably always going to go to New Orleans, back to New Orleans if they didn't get Deshaun. So the only other option was Marcus Mariota, and he was the best free agent quarterback available. They didn't have to pay any compensation, draft pick wise for him. So I thought it was a good deal for them. And we'll see how it works out. There aren't that many options in the passing game that are elite right now in Atlanta. Kyle Pitts is definitely your best guy, unless you want to go with Cordell Patterson. And I mean, they tendered Olamide Zaccheaus at the right of first refusal, I believe. Restricted free agent tender there. So they got some work to do at the receiver position with Calvin Ridley suspended for the entire year. So Panthers, they signed Browns wide receiver Rashard Higgins to a 1-year deal. Like that, serviceable third, fourth guy in the passing game. Now we just got to find someone to throw in the ball. Raiders, they filled Alec Ingold's spot with a Josh McDaniels Patriots connection. Patriots fullback Jakob Johnson to a 1-year deal for Vegas. Jakob Johnson's relatively good. We'll see how he works out though. Blocking for Josh Jacobs and Kenyon Drake. The Bills, they signed Cardinals defensive tackle Jordan Phillips to a 1-year deal. Comes back to Buffalo where he started his career. I think that's a good deal considering they lost Harrison Phillips as well. So they go Phillips for Phillips and get that trade in for less money. The Bengals, they have their new tight end. It is Falcons tight end Hayden Hurst to a 1-year deal. Lost CJ Uzama in free agency to the Jets. So they needed a tight end. Hayden Hurst is their guy, at least for this season. The Falcons, they signed Bears running back Damian Williams to a 1-year deal, so he will fill a role behind Cordero Patterson at running back. Limited with injuries in Chicago this past year. Texans, they signed Steelers wide receiver James Washington to a 1-year deal. I think it's a good move for them. James Washington, he never really panned out. 2nd-round pick out of Oklahoma State a couple of seasons ago. And it's a good depth signing. I mean, it's worth a flyer. The Browns, I mentioned this earlier, they signed Dolphins quarterback Jacoby Brissett to a 1-year deal, going to slot right in behind Deshaun Watson. The Panthers, they signed Raiders linebacker Corey Littleton to a 1-year deal. Didn't have as much success in Vegas as he did with the Rams. So look for him to kind of reestablish himself this year in Carolina on a pretty good young defense, I think. The Falcons, they signed Giants pass rusher Lorenzo Carter to a 1-year deal. Again, they need all the pass rush help they can get in Atlanta. It's a nice story. He comes home. He's from Georgia, went to Georgia. So he comes back to Georgia for Lorenzo Carter. And he's a guy that had, was it 6 sacks in the last 5 games? So good move there as well. The Eagles, I love this signing. They signed Colts wide receiver Zach Pascal to a 1-year deal. He was a favorite of Nick Sirianni in Indianapolis when Sirianni was the offensive coordinator for Frank Reich. And he comes and gives Jalen Hurts another option in the passing game for this season. The Raiders, they signed linebacker Kyler Fackrell to a 1-year deal as well. Kind of replaces Corey Littleton in that Vegas defense there. So good for them. The Panthers, they signed Rams guard Austin Corbett. Love the move. They're trying to beef up their offensive line as well to protect whoever is taking snaps at quarterback. Good move for them. The Bills, they signed Panthers defensive tackle Daquan Jones. Good season for Daquan in Carolina. I didn't notice him too much, though. That's the only issue. The Giants, they signed Bills offensive lineman John Feliciano. Again, it's the Buffalo to New York connection for head coach Brian Daboll and GM Joe Shane. Feliciano is going to play center for the Giants, and he will be Daniel Jones' best friend. The Texans signed a pair of offensive linemen to protect Davis Mills. Seahawks offensive lineman Justin Britt and Jaguars offensive lineman AJ Cann. Justin Britt, a center by trade, can play guard if needed to, but I think they'll have him play center like he did in Seattle. AJ Cann never worked out in Jacksonville. It wasn't the worst. You know, you can get worse than AJ Cann. But it's a guy that's going to help with their guard spots, one of their guard spots there in Houston. The Bucks, they signed Falcons wide receiver Russell Gage, so that's a massive get for Tom Brady. Fills a need because they needed to get a third guy. They couldn't find a third guy. They tried a couple options and never worked out. So they're looking forward to Russell Gage being that guy behind Evans and Godwin. The Panthers, they signed running back Deontay Foreman. Titans running back Deontay Foreman had a good run with Tennessee last year after Derrick Henry went down. So they're looking for more of a power back to back up Christian McCaffrey and Chuba Hubbard. Cardinals, they signed former Vikings first-round pick Jeff Gladney, corner. Have needed corner help for a while, ever since, before Patrick Peterson went to the Vikings last year. But yeah, Gladney, now cleared of all his legal issues, should be able to join and try to reestablish his career in the NFL. The Seahawks, they signed Chiefs center Austin Blythe, so that's the Justin Britt replacement for Drew Lock and the Seahawks. The Raiders, what do you know? They signed another Patriot. Patriots running back Brandon Bolden, so he will back up Jacobs and Drake there in Vegas. The Jets, they signed Vikings tight end Tyler Conklin, going to pair well with CJ Uzama coming from the Bengals. That 2 tight end system should be working very fine and give Michael Carter options in the run game as well. The Giants, they signed Commanders tight end Ricky Seals-Jones, so they get their new tight end for Daniel Jones after they released Kyle Rudolph and let Evan Ingram walk in free agency to Jacksonville. So Ricky Seals-Jones is their new starter there. The Commanders, they signed Jaguars guard Andrew Norwell. That is the Brandon Sheriff replacement on their offensive line. Big hole to fill. But former All-Pro and Pro Bowl player for Carolina and Jacksonville. The Panthers, they signed Commanders defensive tackle Matt Ioannidis. I love that signing. Ioannidis was the forgotten guy, sort of like Tim Settle, who got signed before this. And Ioannidis has the Temple connection, played for Matt Rule, I believe, at Temple. And looking forward to seeing him on the defensive line in Carolina. The Seahawks, they signed Raiders defensive tackle Quentin Jefferson. So he goes back to Seattle, where he had some success a couple of years ago. The Broncos, they signed Ravens quarterback Josh Johnson. So Russell Wilson gets a new backup in Denver. And Josh Johnson goes to his 14th team in his career. So that's just crazy. 14th NFL team. Has played in the CFL, has played in the AAF, XFL, and I believe also the USFL. Cowboys, they signed Falcons pass rusher Dante Fowler, lost out on Randy Gregory, needed to fill the opposite side for DeMarcus Lawrence, and looks like that will be a mix between Michael Parsons and Dante Fowler. The Broncos, they signed Eagles linebacker Alex Singleton. It's a big gift for the Broncos. Alex Singleton's been the Eagles' leading tackler the last 2 seasons. I'm disappointed that the Eagles didn't like him enough to re-sign him, but they wanted to go a different route, and they haven't re-signed. They haven't signed anyone since that at the position. So the devaluation from Howie Roseman at the off-ball linebacker continues, I guess, for at least another week. But yeah, he's going to pair well with Josie Jewell, I think, and give them a couple young linebackers to run around behind a pretty good defensive front. Raiders, they signed Commanders quarterback Garrett Gilbert. He is the new backup for Derek Carr after Mariota went to Atlanta today. So Garrett Gilbert in Vegas. The Raiders also signed Broncos linebacker Micah Kaiser today. Pretty good run with the Rams. I didn't notice him too much when he went to Denver midseason. So we'll see if he can reestablish there in Vegas. The Giants, they signed a couple of guys here. Bills running back Matt Breida, going to be a nice change of pace back behind Saquon Barkley and Devontae Booker, who I think is a free agent, actually. The Giants also signed Jags defensive lineman Jihad Ward. Was in Jacksonville last year after a couple of years with Baltimore. That is why the Giants signed him. He's very familiar with the Wink Martindale style system, who they hired as their defensive coordinator. The Bills, filling the Matt Breida role and also the J.D. McKissick role that they thought they were getting, with Dolphins running back Duke Johnson, had a awesome couple of games with Miami where he actually ran the ball very well which I think threw off me and a lot of other people because we were like, Duke Johnson actually running the ball and not catching it. It was weird. But yeah, he had a couple of games where he was just a monster for Miami, and won't get that with Devin Singletary taking the reins late last season and going into the season this year as the guy at the running back position. And also Zach Moss is there still as well. The Bears, they are not signing Bengals defensive tackle Larry Ogunjobi. He actually failed his physical, so he is still a free agent out there recovering from surgery. Panthers, they are looking to continue to bolster their offensive line. They are pursuing Seahawks left tackle Dwayne Brown, 36-year-old, I believe. 36, might be wrong. But yeah, Dwayne Brown, very good offensive tackle, and Panthers are looking to court him to Carolina. And Cowboys free agent safety or linebacker Keanu Neal, he is transitioning back to safety for free agency, looking to reestablish himself as a safety in the league. See where he lands. Okay, as far as releases here, a lot of big names. Titans releasing corner Janoris Jenkins. Jack Rabbit is on the loose once again. Browns, they released center and NFLPA president JC Treader, so he is looking for a new team. Very good center, I think. Chargers, I think this one was big. They released offensive tackle Brian Balaga, has had issues staying healthy the last couple of years. But when he is healthy, I mean, he has to be one of the best right tackles in the league, if not the best. So look for him to get signed somewhere. Falcons released defensive tackle Tyler Davison. I like him. He's an underrated guy, former third-round pick. I think so. Browns, they franchise tagged tight end David Njoku. They also have Harrison Bryant, and they now released tight end Austin Hooper, their big money free agent, a couple of seasons ago. He should get work relatively quickly. The Raiders, they released defensive end Carl Nassib. Sad end to his Raiders career after being the first openly gay active athlete when he announced that this past season. Again, though, he's a very good player. I think he should get signed somewhere and be in a rotational pass rush role. The Commanders, they released offensive lineman Eric Flowers. He has really improved throughout his career after a paltry start with the Giants in Washington, has solidified himself as a pretty good guard. So teams that need offensive line help there with Eric Flowers can get it. The Titans, they released wide receiver Julio Jones, kind of like a second-round pick, just down the drain, wasted. I don't know. I don't know where Julio is going to end up. It's not going to be for much money, and it's going to be a one-year deal. That's all I do know. The Bears, they released linebacker Danny Trevathan. Pretty good run for him in Chicago. Aging a little bit now. Doesn't have as quick of a step anymore. I think he can still be possibly a two-down linebacker. The Steelers, they released linebacker Joe Schobert. Mentioned that it was one Jags linebacker after another. Schobert had his moments, but left a lot to be wanted from his performance. So happy we got Miles Jack. I wish Joe Schobert the best somewhere. The Bills, they released wide receiver Cole Beasley. Massive slot option if you need one. So I think that he should get work relatively quickly as well. I mean, yeah, he isn't the fastest, he isn't the biggest, but he has some dominant performances in the slot. And even over 30 years old, I think he can still make a big difference on a team. The Bills also released defensive tackle Starlo Tulele. He's getting older as well. And I wouldn't be surprised if maybe his former team who drafted him in the first round looks at him, the Carolina Panthers, looking for more interior defensive line help. The Seahawks, they released a couple of pass rushers. Carlos Dunlap, who they traded for from Cincinnati 2 years ago. I was shocked by that move. He was their best pass rusher by far. And really, the trade worked out nicely, I thought, for Seattle, for both sides, actually. I believe he had 8 sacks 2 years ago when he was traded. And last year he was good as well. I don't know. I think he's probably one of the better pass rushers available now on the market. And the other pass rusher they released, Kerry Hyder Jr., who has been one of the more underrated guys throughout his career, whether that was with Detroit or Seattle. Kerry Hyder can be a nice situational pass rusher as well in a rotation. And the Bengals today released corner Trey Waynes. Again, I thought that was intriguing. They re-signed Eli Apple to a 1-year, $4 million deal, and they don't. And then they released Trey Waynes. So pick your poison with that. I think the Bengals definitely still needs to work on their secondary. And then some visits. Free agent visits are going on now that it's kind of that second wave of free agency. So the Chiefs and the Saints both interested in looking at former Browns wide receiver Jarvis Landry. He did have a visit with the Falcons already, so maybe he goes to Kansas City and New Orleans after that. We'll continue to monitor that. The Falcons also hosted Bills tight end Tyler Kroft on a visit. Like I said, Hayden Hurst going to Cincinnati, so they need some depth behind Kyle Pitts. The Raiders hosted Jags tight end James O'Shaughnessy, just trying to get, more depth beyond Darren Waller and Foster Moreau there. Dolphins, they hosted Saints offensive tackle Teron Armstead on a visit. I'm shocked that Armstead is not signed yet. I don't have the full list of free agents available right now still, but I would have to believe that Teron Armstead is by far the biggest free agent left on the market. But yeah, he's not signed yet, and he would fill a huge need for Miami though. The Patriots, they hosted Buccaneers running back Leonard Fournette for a visit. That one is weird. I know the Patriots have this weird infatuation with running backs, but they have 2 very good young guys in Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson, who they have developed and drafted, and I think is a very good 1-2 punch. As well as Leonard Fournette played for the Bucs the past 2 years. I don't know if you'd want to shake the confidence of your young guys. That's just me. I mean, they re-signed James White too. They still have some other guys, so I don't know. The Lions, they hosted 49ers defensive end Arden Key for a visit, trying to get some more pass rush there. Arden Key had a nice time in San Francisco. The Jags, they hosted Titans linebacker Rashaan Evans, trying to keep him in division, bolster up that linebacking core after they released Miles Jack. And then finally, the Vikings, they are hosting Packers linebacker Zadarius Smith for a visit after Smith's deal with the Ravens fell through last week. He is now on the visit tour and possibly sticking in the division in the NFC North to go run after Aaron Rodgers. It's not seeing anything else on the Twitter feed, so let's move on to the mock drafts. Get through this. We are doing the Saints and the Steelers today. Saints had number 18 overall in the first, number 49 in the second, number 98 and number 101 in the third. Those are both compensatory selections. And the Steelers, they have number 20 overall in the first round, 52 in the second, and 84 in the third, all their own picks. So let's get to the mock draft sim here. So starting off, the Jags, Aiden Hutchinson, Kyle Hamilton to the Lions, Kayvon Thibodeau to the Texans, Evan Neal for the Jets, Ike Mekwanu for the Giants, Trayvon Walker for the Panthers, Jermaine Johnson for the Giants, Derek Stingley to the Seahawks, or Jameson Williams to the Falcons, my bad. Derek Stingley to the Seahawks, though, Ahmad Gardner for the Jets, Trent McDuffie for the Commanders, Andrew Booth for the Vikings, Charles Cross for the Texans, Jordan Davis for the Ravens, David Ojabo for the Eagles, Kyer Elam to the Eagles, Trevor Penning for the Chargers, and we are now on the New Orleans Saints. They re-signed Jameis Winston today, so they do not need a quarterback. They do need to get him help, though, and I love the first skill position guy on the board there. Garrett Wilson, I think, will help Jameis Winston tremendously. To go along with Michael Thomas, and they would have that Ohio State connection there. I think he would pair nicely in that offense with him and Deontay Harris and Alvin Kamara as well. So I'm going to go Garrett Wilson for the Saints here. The Eagles, Zion Johnson there, and we are on to the Steelers. And yes, they signed Mitch Trubisky. But I don't care. I've been wanting to do this for the longest time. Kenny Pickett to the Steelers. They moved quarterback all the way down to the second to last need. I don't know why you would do that. You have a guy in the city that you're in that would be beloved by the Steelers fans. So, as much as Tyler Linderbaum is great, as much as Drake London is fantastic, I have to go Kenny Pickett. I can't not go Kenny Pickett. So, Nakobe Dean to the Patriots, Drake London for the Packers, George Karlaftis for the Cardinals, Tyler Linderbaum for the Cowboys, Cam Thomas for the Bills, Traylon Burks for the Titans, Kenyon Green to the Bucks, Boye Mafe for the Packers, Devin Lloyd for the Dolphins, Chris Olave for the Chiefs, Bernard Raymond for the Bengals, Malik Willis to the Lions. There you go, Detroit. Devontae Wyatt for the Jags, Jahan Dotson for the Lions, Daxton Hill for the Jets, Christian Harris for the Giants, Kyler Gordon for the Texans, DeMarvin Leal to the Jets, Christian Watson to the Bears. The Seahawks get their quarterback of the future, Desmond Ridder, it is. Daniel Fa'alele to the Seahawks, Arnold Ebiketie to the Colts, Jaquan Brisker for the Falcons, Sky Moore for the Browns, Sean Ryan to the Ravens, Perry and Winfrey for the Vikings, Tyler Smith to the Commanders, Jamari Salyer for the Bears. Back on the Saints, got Garrett Wilson. I'm not giving him a quarterback. I do believe in Jameis, and I think that they're not going to re-sign Teron Armstead. The only issue is it does not look like we have any offensive tackles available worth selecting at this spot. 75 is the next one. So we'll look to get one of those guys down there at the one of the 2 third-round picks we have for New Orleans. So let's look at other needs. Again, I'm nixing out quarterback. Safety is a need, though. They did sign Marcus May, but I think they still need some help there. So let's go get one of these 2 safeties here. I'm going with my boy Lewis Seen from Georgia. Had the play, obviously, of the national championship game, taking the pick 6 back to the house. So let's go Georgia, Lewis Seen for New Orleans. George Pickens to the Dolphins, Dalen Petrie to the Eagles. Steelers are back up. We got Kenny Pickett to Pittsburgh. Let's go get him some protection. It doesn't look like there are any linemen available, though. Dylan Parham is there. But, we got corner. Corner is a need. Tariq Woolen, Roger McCreary. I love Roger McCreary. Chad Muma is very enticing, but we did just get Miles Jack, and we have Devin Bush still. Travis Jones is one of my favorite under-the-radar prospects in this draft in terms of interior defensive line. But the Steelers also have Stephon Tuitt coming back from injury, as well as Tyson Alualu. So I think we got to go corner, and I am going to jump McCreary over Tariq Woolen and go with the Auburn Tiger here. Packers, Nicholas Petit-Frere, Tariq Woolen to the Patriots, Darian Kendrick for the Cardinals, Logan Hall for the Cowboys, Kenneth Walker to the Bills, Matt Corral to the Falcons. They get a quarterback. Travis Jones for the Packers, Mario Goodrich for the Bucks, Dylan Parham for the Niners, Isaiah Spiller for the Chiefs, Alante Taylor for the Bengals, Josh Pascal for the Broncos, Chad Muma to the Jags, Damone Clark for the Lions, Breece Hall for the Giants, David Bell for the Texans, Kingsley Enagbare to the Jets, John Mechie for the Jags, Brian Asamoah for the Bears, Ed Ingram for the Seahawks, Calvin Austin to the Colts, Darian Beavers to the Falcons, Trey McBride for the Broncos, hometown product there, Drake Jackson to the Ravens, Kirby Joseph for the Vikings, Fidarian Mathis for the Browns, Leon Chenal to the Chargers, Damari Mathis for the Texans, had a nice pro day today, Carson Strong there is the quarterback to New York, to the Giants, Nick Benito for the Falcons, and Abraham Lucas to the Eagles. So the Steelers back up. Do we finally have, and yes, we do. Look at that. We have Darian Kennard draftable here. And I think that has to be the top pick. We do need interior offensive line, interior defense line. There's no interior D line available worth this selection. Zachary Carter is the next one, but as we mentioned at the combine, terrible testing numbers. So yeah, I think it's got to be Darian Kennard. Love the pick. Kentucky guard there for Pittsburgh. Patriots, Nick Cross, Zachary Carter to the Raiders, Jalen Tolbert for the Cardinals, Josh Williams for the Cowboys, Marcus Jones for the Bills, Sam Howell, new quarterback for Tennessee. That's intriguing. Isaiah Likely for the Bucks, James Cook for the Packers, Sam Williams for the Niners, Channing Tindall for the Chiefs, Kyle Phillips for the Bengals, Troy Anderson to the Broncos, another Midwest guy there, Tyreek Hill or Tyreek Smith to the Lions, and then we're back on the Saints. So yeah, there aren't any tackles. I get the Rasheed Walker, but again, we have another pick. We can get Rasheed Walker. I don't think the Browns or Ravens are going to take him, but I say that now and then they will. So let's get Jameis another toy. Look at all the tight ends we got here. You can really take your pick. You also have Jake Ferguson down here. That's my guy, but I'm going to go with Daniel Jeremiah's favorite guy. Greg Dulcich had an awesome combine, and I think I'm going to go with UCLA Bruin to New Orleans to help Jameis Winston because they really don't have a tight end that I can think of that is a field stretcher in the passing game. So Greg Dulcich, I think, is going to be fine and fit in that offense. Browns go Jeremy Ruckert. And look at that, of course, Rasheed Walker goes to the Ravens. So that throws a wrench in the plan because now Cordell Volson is the next guy, and he's not worth this pick. So I told you it was going to happen. Now I really don't know what to do because we need some help at a position that is not available. But we'll go to the next needs, and the next need that fits with the board right now is interior offensive line. So Cole Strange is on the board, Spencer Burford. I like Cole Strange. Positional versatility, played center at the Senior Bowl. and did very nicely there. So I think the Chattanooga center is what we're going to go with for the last pick of this 3-round mock for these two teams. Dolphins go with Cordell Volson, Cam Taylor-Britt to the Chiefs, Quay Walker for the Rams, and for the Niners, it is Josh Jobe at Alabama. So the 3 picks we have for the Saints and Steelers here, 18 overall, Garrett Wilson out of Ohio State, wide receiver. Steelers at number 20 go Kenny Pickett, quarterback out of Pitt. 49, Saints, Lewis Seen, safety out of Georgia. 52, Steelers, Roger McCreary, corner out of Auburn. 84, Steelers, Darian Kennard, interior offensive line out of Kentucky. 98, the Saints go Greg Dulcich, tight end out of UCLA. And 101, the Saints go Cole Strange, interior offensive line out of Chattanooga. I think the Steelers got the best out of this draft. Loved the Saints' first pick in Garrett Wilson. The board never really materialized with the next 3 picks. The Steelers, all 3 of their picks, I thought, were very nicely fit with the board and what their needs were. Starting off with their next franchise guy in Kenny Pickett, who I will continue to say he is the guy for Pittsburgh until he's not drafted by the Steelers on draft night. So that is the show for today. Next week we will be draft preview week 1. I know it's different than off season week 6, but I wanted to change it around here. So we will continue to do kind of the same thing, continue to look at free agency on the Monday show. On Friday this week, I know we didn't have a show this week, but this Friday we will have a show that is picks number 21 and 22, which is kind of a redo because it's supposed to be picks number 21 and 22. So I think we're going to redo the Texans picks, and we will now be doing the Packers and Patriots picks on Friday. So, but then next Monday, we'll be doing the Cardinals and Cowboys picks, numbers 23 and number 24 in the first round. So don't forget to follow us on all our social media at FAA Podcast on Instagram and Twitter. FAApodcast.com is our website. You can check us out here on YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, etc. Thank you all for watching, and stay addicted.